mind. You tell me, come back now, but I keep wasting time. Feeling so very weak to say I can be strong. I feel I've gone too far. You tell me to come home. You love me still, and I know this is real, and I am running back to you. See, you're standing there for me. Your arms are open wide, and I don't have to cry no more. You're standing there for me, and I am running back to you. Why do I go away when I know I am no good? But I'm on my own.
Hey, Pastor, how you doing?
Keep me,
How you doing?
but I have turned
Good.
away. I felt you too much now. I don't know what to say. Using the plain excuse that I am just a man. You tell me you've been there and hold your nail, dark hands, so I can see. Now I know I am free, and I am running back to you. I see you standing there for me. Your arms are open wide, and I don't have to cry no more. You're standing there for me, and I am running back to you. Why do I go away when I know I am no good? I have taken advantage of your love and grace. For
How we doing?
I'm ready when you are.
Okay, about 45 seconds, so we'll get started.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
running to you, Jesus. Please take me home. You see, I've been in this wrong way too long, and I can't do right anymore. I'm tired of pain and I don't like fear, but Lord, I want to be more sincere. I never should have left your side. Return me to your guiding light. I'm running back to you.
WTOC AM, W236CR, Indianapolis. Broadcasting from the Praise Indy Indigo Studios. Indigo, boldly moving Indy forward. We are Praise AM 1310, 95.1 FM, Indy's inspiration station.
The following program is paid for by the concerned clergy. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Urban One Incorporated, Radio One, or any of its subsidiary companies. The concerned clergy invites you to their weekly town hall meeting on Praise AM 1310, 95.1 FM.
Well, we invite you to catch the replay. That is the Concerned Clergy Substack, and that airs on tomorrow. That is the replay for our program on tonight. If you can't catch the entire program on tonight, you can always go to our Substack. That is on the Progressive Indiana Network. I want to say good evening, everyone. We're 6 days out. We're 6 days out to Primary Tuesday here in Indiana. And on today, if any other day We definitely have a reason to say that we need to make sure that we get out and vote. So we're going to be talking about a lot of voting on tonight, and we invite you to be part of the conversation. You can call into the radio station. That phone number is 317-480-1310. Once again, 317-480-1310. I want to say good evening to our president on tonight. How you doing, Pastor Green?
Good evening, Reverend Alexander. Good evening to our listening and watching audience on tonight. It's good to be with each and every one of you. Thank God that you chose to join the Concerned Clergy radio program, where we are discussing an important topic, and that topic is voting.
Absolutely. You might go ahead and open us up in prayer as well, Pastor Green.
Eternal God, our Father, we come before you once again as humble as we know how. Lord, we thank you for this day. Thank you, Lord God, for continuing to watch over us and keep us. Thank you, Lord God, for your arms of protection. We continue to pray for our country, its leaders, Lord God, for our state and its leaders and all our local leadership as well. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Well, you can call into the radio station. That phone number is 317-480-1310. Once again, 317-480-1310. You can also follow us on Facebook, the Concerned Clergy of Indianapolis, and you can comment there as well. Mr. President, today we had a Supreme Court ruling that ruled on a case in Louisiana in which it was a case in which there were some redistricting, which we are all familiar with here in Indiana, having to fight that fight. But in Louisiana, they had done some redistricting, and they were their maps was ruled unfair. They had to go back and they had to draw them more fairly, which would include more minorities, as well as that would could possibly mean more Democratic voters. But the main thing is more representation for minorities. So that case was then sent to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court undid that, Mr. President. And now they're saying that Louisiana can go back and they can redraw their maps pretty much any way that they want, saying that you cannot you cannot draw your lines based on quote unquote race, but you can do it based on party affiliation. That's actually what they ruled, Mr. President.
Yes, Reverend Alexander, and today's decision from the Supreme Court is deeply concerning for me because it's moving us in the wrong direction. Something that was fundamental in terms of voting, giving us access to the ballot box. And now they're trying, to unwind that, to undo that for, women, minorities, etc. And so the right to vote really isn't a legal issue. I would challenge us to look at it tonight as a moral one, because it speaks to voice and dignity and encouraging people to be a participant in our democracy. And as a pastor and community leader, I believe we should be working to expand access, not restrict it. It should be more about, we need more people to vote. I mean, Indiana ranks almost dead last, if not last, for voter participation, voter turnout. And it supports that argument, Alexander, we often hear when people say, well, my voice doesn't matter. And this decision by the Supreme Court today, in my opinion, is going to weaken people's faith and trust in the entire system. And so we got to stay committed to protecting the rights of every eligible voter to be heard. If we're going to have a healthy democracy, this is where we got to get people to engage in the process. Voting is more than a legal issue. It's a moral one. And we need to be making sure and trying to increase access to it and not restrict it.
And then understanding that for those that are listening, and you had that same thought that President Green just mentioned, that my voice doesn't count. Right now is probably I'll say the most critical time that your voice real actually count. And that's because while we just had this ruling, what it means is that there's still a process. It doesn't just go into law automatically. There's going to be a lot of states that are getting ready to try to make some changes before November because they know they can't do it before the primaries. So a lot of activity is getting ready to start. I've heard already, Mr. President, 2 states on today after the ruling already said we're getting ready to redraw our maps. So they're already deciding now's the time for us to strike. But we still have primaries coming, Mr. President, and it's important that our folks get out now, especially when historically we haven't done that, not in recent times, but now's the time that your voice really can make a difference, and then carry that on to November. But it's got to start right now.
There is the urgency of now, right? It's the urgency of now, because if we don't, then we're saying, like, well, it don't matter. And they're going to, the Supreme Court and others will roll on. But, hey, the people don't care. We announced this, and they didn't even turn out to vote. So that's why it's imperative for us to say we're going to get out to vote. If you don't like the condition of your streets, you don't like your gas prices you're looking at, now is the time to send a clear message. I don't like this, and I'm going to be engaging in this voting process, because that's the only thing that causes politicians to change their mind and the error of their ways, because they'll look and say, now, wait a minute, I got more people voting over here and they could vote against me. So I'm going to have to do some things to support what they're looking for. When they don't see that, then they feel like they're empowered to keep moving and doing what they're doing. And they will do things that are detrimental to most Hoosiers and to most people. You have to be one of, the 1%. If you're part of the 1%, you love it. You own a lot of stock and you're part of the 1%, you love what's going on. Everybody else, though, we should be like, wait a minute. We need to engage in this process, because this is, clearly going in the wrong direction. And they're not trying to grant more access. They're trying to limit it so that fewer people will make all the decisions.
And just so folks understand, so this is, and it was described earlier by someone as kind of, kicking the third leg of a stool out, where now pretty much even though the Voting Rights Act itself, didn't go away, pretty much everything that sustained it, everything that you would have to argue with or to combat if you felt your voting rights had been unfairly challenged or whatever taken away. Now all of those levels in which you could go and argue that are pretty much gone.
Exactly. I mean, we open up Pandora's box for just, really going back to prior to the voting rights, and with all the things that the president's been talking about doing, limiting women's vote, and, making them prove a number of things, knowing that their names have changed, so, you got to have birth certificate and a whole bunch of things, just making it more difficult. Because they know the more difficult you make it, you reduce who can vote. And that's their real goal, to reduce it down to only a few people are going to be making this decision. And when that happens, the outcomes will be totally skewed and different, right? If they can draw the maps and then scale it down to say, here's who decides what happens within that district. And, you could just weave out all types of minorities and then call it that you had an election.
Well, you mentioned women's rights as well, and we need to actually put a tabulation here on, all the folks whose voting rights are slowly diminishing. I mean, it's not just the Supreme Court ruling that happened on today that will affect, us as black folks and minorities, but you mentioned women. That's another group you got to add in. A bunch of women are going to actually lose their voting rights if the MAGA Republicans get their way. Oh, who else is going to? Some of these immigrants that did have rights to vote, they're going to lose their rights. I mean, we can just continue to, build a tally sheet of folks that are losing and rights are being diminished to vote, and then who's going to be left?
Exactly, because it's going to be, really what we're headed towards is predominantly white males, right? They will be making the decisions for all. And when you get done with it, It'd be white males who decide all these critical issues that would be part of the redistricting, not just redistricting, but democracy type of issues. We got referendums coming, etc. The white males would decide that, which is what they want, and then everybody else would be. It'd be hard for them to vote because they know if they make it difficult, how many people are going to go through the process? How many people say, "Forget it. It's not worth all the effort," is what they're going to tell themselves when it is. But you're going to have to jump through so many hoops to vote. And if they look and say, well, X percentage is not voting now, what's the odds all of a sudden they're going to get motivated and jump through a bunch of hoops and vote? But that's where we need to deceive them. That's where we need to show up. We need to turn out.
And I certainly want to have definitely women. You need to be thinking about this, not from a lens of color, but you're going to be affected as well. Any of you that have gotten married, gotten divorced, or even fall in the same boat as a lot of minorities where you can't find your original documents, you're going to be in the same boat. So we need to, when we're talking about galvanizing together, creating coalitions, this needs to be a coalition in which we're all inclusive, understanding we're all facing the same issues when it comes to our voting rights. Let's go to the phone lines. It looks like we've got Guy who's on the line. Guy, good evening.
Good evening. Great words are being spoken, and it looking at it from a historical perspective, it's really disheartening, I guess you would say, when you got the Supreme Court, you got Congress that's active in favor of the craziness going on in the executive branch of the government. This is the 25th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. And I don't know if you had a chance to hear King Charles when he addressed Congress yesterday. Did you have a chance to hear that?
I thought it was an excellent speech.
Yes,
I did too. He hit it right. He hit it out of the park in my estimation. And he was telling Congress, checks and balances is the name of the game, and it goes as far as back as the Magna Carta in history, and it's just incredible the way that they are manipulating or trying to manipulate the rule of power, I guess you would say, in this country. But I think we can take heart in the fact that they are using all of these tactics because they see that they are going to lose, and it's nothing they can really do about it. The majority of people understand what's going on now. Abraham Lincoln said, as you may know, that he said that you can fool all of the people some of the time, you can fool some of the people all of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time. So people will wake up, and I think that's what's happening across the country. So I would be very surprised if Congress doesn't swing back to what it should be in the next midterms.
All right. Thank you so much for your phone call, Guy. While I appreciate Pastor Green, I really appreciate Guy's optimism. I mentioned earlier, we're getting ready to have a flurry of activity. And let's just think back. It was only, 4 months ago or whenever, when Indiana was going through this fight. Now they got a reason to do it again. And I mean, they've got a reason right now where they can revisit this issue, because now they know they got the support of the Supreme Court.
And we can't rule that out, that it would not come back up. I mean, those things are real issues and could really happen, because the president is trying to make sure that Congress doesn't flip in November. There's urgency. He's moving with urgency. And so we need not take it for granted. I mean, because just imagine we get to November and all of a sudden he wants to throw out all the mail-in ballots in an election. Any of that is possible right now. We won't know unless everything plays out through this November, and a lot of things are going to happen between now and November, and they're going to make them urgent. They're not going to say, well, we'll do this in 2028. They're going to be coming because look at how the president operates. He moves in haste and swiftly. And so we need not be surprised by, you might can get through the primary, but what he wants to control is the outcome in November. And you never know what might come up, whether it's redistricting, whether it's you can't do mail-in ballots, early voting may get shrunk down. Or eliminated altogether. Any of that is on the table, and that's what we have to prepare for, because we don't know because he knows as well. If you eliminate early voting, you make everybody stand in a line, how many people will give up and not say, I'm not doing that? Especially in black and brown neighborhoods. Any of that is possible.
Well, I want to, change that language. I think it's probable, because pretty much what they have is they have a pretty much, the attorney general or whoever is working in the White House is pretty much creating legislation for all of the Republicans to follow. So you're getting ready to see, and I say it's a great probability that you are getting ready to see a flurry of activity right now. There's already a couple states that have already said we're ready to redraw our maps, and it is getting ready to get, it's getting ready to get crazy right now. Because what's going to happen is you're going to have all these states trying to react to it. Indiana could be one. And then, what's going to happen? They're going to try to make changes. Then it's going to have to go from one court to another court. And then, watch, the Supreme Court will probably handle a lot of these cases pretty quickly by November.
Exactly. Because they're going this is happening because, let's be honest, the president wants it to happen. Right? This is happening. He has a goal. His goal is he's not going to see that Congress split, because that will put some restrictions on what he's doing. And his goal is to say, I'm not going to do that. And how do you do that? You control who does vote. That's how you get there. You say, okay, we might have to have an election, but I'm getting ready to control the election and eliminate the stuff that leans, quote unquote, Democrat. So I can take away early voting. I can take away mail-in ballots. I can say, here it is, now go wait in line. And are you people going to go do that? That's what he's going to gamble on, especially in certain states. He doesn't have to do it everywhere, but he can do it in certain states to ensure outcome. And, one of them, it would be, if J.D. Ford was running against Victoria Sparks. That would be an example. J.D. Ford has some name recognition. He's running against Victoria Sparks, who's the incumbent. Could he possibly win? Sure. But it becomes much more difficult if we eliminate a whole bunch of options.
Definitely, if we change those maps, and keep in mind, as we're getting ready to go to our break, when we're talking about this mail-in ballot thing, he signed the executive order that said he wants the post office to be able to determine who gets those ballots, and not only that, if they don't do it, they can get fired. Oh, not only that, he's taking away money from the post office budget. So, but he's going to charge them with doing these extra voting activities. So he's going to create chaos in the post office to even try to get them to do what that executive order signs. So we have to We really have to be paying attention, folks. Well, let's go ahead and go to our first commercial break. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, the phone lines are open. You can call in 317-480-1310. Once again, 317-480-1310. When we come back, got a question. What's going on with the data centers here? And talking about legislators, where do they really stand? We're going to talk about that when we come back. You're listening to the Concerned Clergy Radio Show on Praise AM 1310, 95.1 FM Indy's Inspiration Station.
An April prayer can bring a shower of blessings. So, dear God, please accept our gratitude and grant our petition. We know that faith is a power that is unseen, but the power of God is beyond human measure, turning impossibilities into miracles and providing us with light and direction when hope has faded, instilling us the ability to trust the process even when we are dismayed and cannot see the way. Help us to remember that miracles bloom in the silence of belief and are watered with the power of faith, creating us a blooming garden of love, compassion, understanding, and action that will benefit all. Strengthen our resolve to be of assistance to those in need. Awaken our awareness to our responsibilities and empower us to be unafraid to challenge wrongness, regardless of where and from whom it comes. Keep us, dear God, mindful that your eye is on the sparrow, so we can always be confident that you are watching over us. Hallelujah and amen.
If you're dreaming of owning your first home, the National Bank of Indianapolis can help you. With low to no down payment options available, we work with you to get your mortgage approved. Own a home on your terms. Our mortgage team will work with you to find a solution that meets your specific needs. The National Bank of Indianapolis is dedicated to helping you own your home sweet home. Learn more at mbavi.com/firsthome. Equal opportunity lender.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
ZipRecruiter. A new career offers new beginnings and unlimited opportunities. At Eskenazi Health, experience excellent benefits, competitive pay, and unwavering leadership support. Learn more about Eskenazi Health careers online at eskenazihealth.edu/careers.
Eric was way behind on his taxes. I owed a lot of money to the IRS, almost $15,000.
Eric called Optima Tax Relief.
When Optima Tax got involved, the calls would stop, the threats would stop. It was easy like 1, 2, 3.
Optima Tax Relief took care of Eric's problem.
And now my debt is clean. I don't owe anything.
Call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-569-4435. 800-569-4435.
Optima Tax Relief.
Listen to the Chaplain Ed Taylor Ministries broadcast each Wednesday morning, 9:30 a.m. to 9:45 a.m. on Praise Indy, AM 1310 and 95.1 FM. You will be blessed.
My name is Kristen, and I am a first-time home buyer, and I secured my mortgage through the National Bank of Indianapolis. When I first started looking into the process of buying a home, my worry was being a single mother and affording the mortgage on my own, and also my credit score. Just the personality of the people that I worked with made it easier, so they just found the best situation for me and was able to walk me through the whole process. It's like being on a team and they're the cheerleaders. Every time I saw them, Kristen, you're going to find the house. The house is out there. You're going to find it. And that's what you find at the National Bank of Indianapolis. It's people that want to see you in a home. They have your best interests at heart.
The National Bank of Indianapolis helps real first-time home buyers like Kristen throughout Indy. Learn more at nbavi.com.
Being a single mom and letting my son see that it's possible and see that I never gave up. That's the biggest thing.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome back to the Concerned Clergy Radio Show. I'm Reverend Tony Alexander, and our president is with us on tonight. And we invite you to join us. Feel free to call into the radio station. That number is 317-480-1310. Once again, 317-480-1310. Mr. President, DMD has they announced that they were going to have these listening tours, if you will, where they were going to try to engage the community in some of the guardrails and some of the things that the community would want to have information in regards to data centers or potential data center construction, in the communities. Well, they had their first listening session on yesterday, and pretty much man, woman, boy, or child, everyone that I've heard comment kind of said that it was pretty much nothing new. There was really no input from the community, and the community left more upset and outraged after the meeting, after being sold that this is your opportunity to come in, get with our council, and be able to present something or have something in writing that everyone must conform to that wants to build a data center.
Well, I'm certainly disappointed at the community again. It's like recently around these issues, they're check the box meetings. They want to say they had it, but they didn't necessarily engage and listen to the community that it amounted to anything. But they could say, we had a space, the community was invited, and yet it doesn't amount to anything because, the community could have stood out and talked to trees. It'd be just as effective. And that type of stuff, in my opinion, needs to shift. I mean, because people will say, well, we need the community engaged. And when the community engages, if you're not saying what they want you to say, they just dismiss it. They just, ignore it. You're like, okay, you really ain't talking about nothing. And we're back to a few people making decisions and rolling on. And then they're wondering why the community is upset. The community is upset because they tried to express themselves, want to express themselves, trying to express themselves, only to be, really manipulated. Because then they walk away knowing, oh, this is just a check the box meeting. You really didn't want to engage in a conversation. You really didn't want to have communication, dialogue back and forth. You're really not trying to have a relationship. You're trying to manipulate a community. And when they do that, then they leave out frustrated. And then they leave out, still thinking things. It may not be true, but they're going to be thinking it because of the treatment they just experienced.
Well, Mr. President, this was an opportunity for the city to do something right. I mean, it was a great chance for them to do something right, considering all of the discussions that we've been having over data centers, all of the outcry, not just in one area, but across the entire city. We've been having these discussions now for, 6-8 months, however long it's been, where folks have really started to understand these things are coming here. And this was an opportunity, because they blew an opportunity before when Councilor Brown, Jesse Brown, when he said do this, he said let's come together, let's put together, some guardrails, let's have some things that these developers will have to adhere to. Here's how we have to inform the community. He said let's do that, and the council said no. But then they come back around, and it's very insulting to the community to do it this way. You come back around, and then you say you want community involvement, and then there's too many people that have been engaged in this fight. And then you treat them like this, as if, they're just, going to take whatever we tell them. That's insulting to the community.
It is. I mean, I think that's why there's such frustration, even just about mentioning the words data center. I mean, it's just like, okay, that escalate the whole conversation, and people go their respective corners, and it's because this is the treatment. And Councilor Jesse Brown, there was a few other councilors that were in support. It's disappointing because it was the black councilors, not all, but many of them, who didn't agree, didn't support it as a resolution to say, hey, we need to be working on some guardrails. Oh, we're going to have a better plan. Well, we've not yet seen that better plan. You not really roll that out and talk to the community about this better plan, or community, do you buy into this better plan, what they perceive to be a better plan? That has not happened. And so that's been disappointing as well. It continues to add to the frustration of the community. And I think that sometimes people see issues in a silo when the community is looking at, they're experiencing high gas prices, they're experiencing a number of issues, and then you stick this issue on top of all the other issues. That frustration is coming out. It's boiling over. And I think it will carry into the 2027 mayoral election. I think it's going to matter about you. So you might as well say where your position is, because some municipal elections is in 2027, and you're going to need to be somewhere. And I don't think you can just wait to 2027 and talk like you're somewhere. I don't know if people are going to believe you. I think you're going to have actually been there, said some stuff, and stood in a certain area and saying, this is where I'm at. Not where, trying to play some political games, because people are frustrated. And we know the council persons who have said, hey, I'm against this, who are trying to do something. We also know those who haven't. And, and who's been silent. Because the silence can be deafening at times.
And everybody's watching. That's for sure.
Watching.
This is one issue that a lot of people are tuned into. Let's go ahead and bring in Reverend Phillips. We have to go to our break. Let me bring him in before we do that, though. He's been holding. Reverend Phillips, good evening.
Hey, good afternoon, good evening, Reverend Alexander, and to our president. I wasn't going to be on it too long, but I know that people was wondering about that, what the Supreme Court did on today, and about the voting, about the rule of the voting rights.
Mm-hmm. Were you listening earlier? Were you, Reverend Phillips?
I was.
Okay.
Yes, I was.
All right.
And it's like a blow, and because we let the enemy come in to our homes, into the house, and we as believers, we have to pray. It's time for us to pray and seek God now, because when you let the enemy come in into the house, the enemy is going to come in if you let him. But we seek God.
All right. We agree with you. We agree with you, Reverend Phillips. We do have to go to our break. He may be talking about the White House. I'm not sure, though. But we do have to go to our commercial break. If you'd like to be part of the conversation when we return, you can call in. The number's 317-480-1310. You're listening to the Concerned Clergy Radio Show on Praise AM 1310, 95.1 FM Indy's Inspiration Station.
Selling the house the non-traditional way to a company like Simple Quarters takes so much stress and relief off of you. You can put that time back in your family and taking care of what needs to be taken care of. So my father-in-law, his health was declining. We needed to move him to put in assisted living, and we needed to get the home out of his name. Initially, my wife just wanted to let the property be taken over by the state. She was stressed just due to the condition of her dad, moving him back to Indianapolis. And I told her, look, we can sell the home, use those funds to care for him over the next few years. I really didn't want to hassle with putting it on the market, listing it, answering questions, fixing stuff. I reached out to Simple Quarters. The process was just super easy through Simple Quarters. Everything they said they did. There was no pressure involved whatsoever. The pricing I got for the house was very fair, and it was a relief knowing we didn't have the financial responsibility and we could just put all our time and energy into taking care of our father-in-law.
Call Simple Quarters, 317 317-687-HOME. 317-687-HOME.
Agnes was in deep trouble with the IRS.
I owed the IRS a lot of money. I did not know what I was going to do. I was scared.
Agnes caught a break and found about Optima Tax Relief.
So when I called Optima Tax, they guaranteed me that they were going to help me out the best that they can.
Optima stopped the IRS.
No more telephone calls, no more letters. Optima Tax took care of everything. I can finally sleep at night. I was stress-free.
Agnes was finally free from her IRS nightmare.
It was like a burden was lifted off of me, and it was a great feeling.
Are you in deep trouble with the IRS? You might want to listen to Agnes.
I would refer Optima Tax Relief to anyone because they got me debt-free from owing the IRS any more money.
Call Optima right now for your free consultation. Call 800-685-5688. 800-685-5688. 800-685-5688.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Welcome back to the Concerned Clergy Radio Show. I'm Reverend Tony Alexander. The call-in number is 317-480-1310. We're joined by President on tonight. And just want to apologize to Reverend Phillips, but we did have to go to our commercial break, so we appreciate you calling and listening as always. Just remember, they want us to take these breaks. But we're getting ready to round out our hour. We've got a candidate for Senate District number 29. It happens to be the president of the Concerned Clergy, and definitely want to give him an opportunity, Pastor Green, kind of share about, what you would like to maybe tell voters as we're rounding out the last 6 days here, and why it's important that they have somebody like yourself, if they're able to vote for you, to do just that.
Well, I guess I want to start with, people typically want to say, why, Pastor, are you even running in this? And I want to respond by saying, we've looked at the last, going on now for some time, but the last couple of years, what's happened in the Capitol, in my opinion, has just been egregious. And I'm not, just looking at it as a political issue, but I see it as a moral issue. When we look at our budget, we here in Indiana, $22 billion, that's with a B. We got a $22 billion budget a year. And I believe the budget is a moral document. It speaks to our values. It speaks to our priorities. So when we have seniors who are in financial situations now where they have to choose between medicine and their meals, that's a moral issue. When we've got working families who are trying to do the right things, who don't have access to CCDF vouchers, didn't have it, that's a moral issue. When we have our public schools asking our teachers to do more with less because we won't properly fund them, that's a moral issue. And so when you begin to look at all these issues that are happening and it's a moral issue, I just believe we cannot no longer be silent. That's why I chose to get into the race, platform around affordability first. We've got to begin to address these issues because in my mind, if you can't afford to live, nothing else matters, Reverend Alexander. You got to be able to live. And we got to get people back to where they can live. Not just the 1%. They're going to live. It's the others that we need to make sure that they can live here in Indiana that has a surplus.
Even on the federal level, they're even looking at changing the supplemental security income, which will directly attack. We're looking at disabled family members. If you happen to be living, in a home with a family member, they're actually going to deduct some of your benefits and say, well, you got a bedroom there, so that's worth, $100 or whatever. So we're going to reduce your benefits. That stuff is coming in the state as well, Pastor Green.
Yes, it is. I mean, you're really talking about a lot of people feeling the pressure. As I've gone across my district talking to people in the various townships areas, a common theme is they feel the pressure in Alexander because incomes are not going up to match any of these things. When you get this deduction, you don't have another $100 coming in from somewhere else. And so people that who planned and retired and thought they had it made, and now woke up and said, "I gotta go find me a job." And that was not their original plan, but they did everything they were supposed to do. They looked at everything the matrix that they had. They just didn't anticipate the pain and the cuts and the suffering that is happening now. And I don't believe, especially seniors, those with disabilities, they should live with dignity.
Mm-hmm.
They should not have to be over here like, am I going to end up homeless here? Am I going to end up living somewhere I really don't want to live because of the cuts and experiences that I've had? Because some of them, they're in a home that they want it to be transitional wealth. They want to be able to pass it on. They don't want to feel like I get kicked out of it because of property taxes, utility costs, and other things happen. So now I'm either living with a family member I didn't want to live with or some other type of living arrangement. When they help build communities, when they help build the street that they're on, and next thing you know, hey, you're going to be forced out of it because of all these things over here that are around affordability.
What optimism do you have that Indiana Democrats can cross the aisle, and be embraced by Republicans and vice versa?
I have some optimism now, and it's driven by the fact that the governor had to go and get $200 million to give the fund child care voucher. He didn't do that because he was trying to help Democrats. He did that because of the outcry from his Republican base. Because we've had over 311 child cares closed. They're not all in Democrat counties. That's across the state of Indiana. A lot of people who are Republicans said, hey, wait a minute, this ain't working, because they need a workforce, a number of reasons. They may not all just love children. Some love children, but some need a workforce. And they said, we got to have this. Now, it's a one-time thing, so we need to get it in the 2027 budget where there's a commitment to it. We need more dollars for it, but certainly there needs to be a clear message that you can be in that industry and keep a job. And so I'm more optimistic because he did that. He didn't do that because a Democrat mentioned it in his ear. And I believe that coming into 2027, if you build that broad coalition that's urban, suburban, rural areas, I believe you'll get Democrats and Republicans saying, we got to have this. And there'll be people on both sides of the aisle doing it. The same way redistricting work, you got to follow pretty much the same template in terms of it's a broad coalition. They ain't doing it because Pastor Green brought it up, but they will be doing it when a number of voices, women-led organizations, the Chamber of Commerce who's interested in a workforce, the United Ways who've invested tons of dollars in childcare facilities and teachers and in their training, along with the faith-based community, along with mothers who are crying out. When that coalition comes together, I see a change.
Well, and a lot of the issues are very similar. If you'd like to ask our candidate a question, feel free to call into the studio. The number is 317-480-1310, or you can even comment on our Facebook page as well. We'll try to pick those up also. But I think a lot of the issues, hopefully we're at a time, and you say you were optimistic, hopefully we are at a time where folks realize, hey, our issues aren't divided by race. Our issues are pretty much all the same when you're looking at all of our school systems are hurting. When you look at a lot of us have disabled family members. That has nothing to do with, wealth. And a lot of them are already struggling trying to pay for health care benefits. And if you're taking them away, all of us are dealing with the same issues. Even if you look at voting, gas prices, food prices, hey, they don't charge me anymore when I walk in the grocery store because I'm black.
Exactly. And I mean, in those rural areas where hospitals are closed, etc.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure the people, when they were voting, was thinking it was going to happen to them. Most of the time you think it's somebody else. But when it begins to hit you, I believe there will be a number of people say, wait a minute, I thought this was just going to help hurt black people and black areas of the state. Now you're hurting us too. I believe there's going to be a number of people who are willing to say, well, we're going to have to at least do something, and other than what they currently have been doing. And I believe that in many of these areas, we can get movement. We can build a broad coalition. Can't do it in a silo, but a broad coalition. It says, let's bring these voices together. I think that both sides are saying we need some change. And let's be honest, the governor is going to be getting closer to an election. And I'm sure he'd like to win a second term. It'll be hard to do with gas prices $4.50 and hospitals closing and no child care vouchers. That's a tough way to win, Reverend Alexander. So I think that he'll have people who are willing to bend and shift, because I don't see you staying in the winning category if that is your philosophy and your approach, because there's a number of people in here that are clearly suffering, like all the people who have a disability, which is beyond just Democrats. So they're going to be going along with this? I'm not sure. In rural areas that have had their hospitals closed and now traveling 100 miles to get to their health care at gas over $4 a gallon, I'm sure they're going to think about it.
Speaking about
causing us to rethink some things.
Well, speaking about rural areas, I was reading up in Wisconsin and Michigan today that many of those farmers are deciding not to even plant this spring. They're deciding not to even do anything this season because they think it's too high. They think there's too many issues, and they're like, we would lose money trying to plant, because you got to remember, we still have tariffs going on. People aren't buying, what they were planning and trying to sell. We threw away a whole lot of food. So that's another, when you look at a group of folks that, hey, once again, we're really in the same boat.
Exactly. And that's another group that, when they originally voted, probably didn't anticipate this economic pain, because when the election was taking place, there wasn't like, we're going to be doing these tariffs, and by the way, your product ain't going to move. They didn't know that. They didn't find that out till after the election. And given where the president is and how the governor supported those things, I'm sure those people feel a little different about life and how they would like to vote. I don't think most people voted thinking this was going to play out this way. So between the tariffs, the war, the impact of these items on our economy and how people are, it's going to be, and the president's trying to push everything down to the state level. I think there will be a number of people saying, yeah, this ain't what I want. We need something different. Even though they're freaking the pace, I see it being different, Reverend Alexander.
Well, it's been a long road for you, even though when you look back, you may see it was a short season in this campaign season, but I know it's been a long road for you. As you're coming to, the last and final days, what are some things you want to make sure that, those that are in Senate District number 29, here's what I've been hearing, and here's what I'll do, and here's why you need to vote for me?
I want people to get out and vote. At the end of the day, this election is about people. Families trying to make ends meet, seniors wanting to age with dignity, stay in their homes, children who deserve a strong education. I have spent much of my life here in Indianapolis being a pastor, serving this community as not just a pastor, but an advocate. And I just want to take that same skill to the State House. I'm going to fight for affordability. I'm going to fight to protect Eagle Creek, which is certainly a big concern that certainly all of us on the West Side need to be sensitive to. And I'm going to make sure that their voices are heard. If you're looking for leadership that listens and leads with integrity, I'm asking for your vote. I'm telling people don't be mean and vote for Green, because I'm the kind of leader that's going to listen, that's going to act, and then really cares. I've demonstrated that what makes me different from any of my competitors that are running. I have done this. You can Google and say where Green was on education or on health care or on redistricting or a number of issues, Reverend Alexander, that you and I have engaged in, and this is not a season for somebody you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what they're really going to do, yet they're able to maybe say something that's catchy during a campaign season, but you got to know how to do the work. And I have the experience doing the work and working with various coalitions, and I think that's really my strength, that I've worked with a number of agencies, have those relationships from the business side to the advocacy organization, to the faith-based community, to say, oh, he can communicate with various groups, which is what you're going to need to be effective. Otherwise, I think you can occupy the seat, but that don't mean you're going to make progress. To make progress, I'm not there to try to occupy a seat or have a title. I want to make progress for Hoosiers. How do you do that? You got to have those relationships and be able to build that collaboration across a number of entities, and even with faith-based. That is not just say Baptist people or even just Black pastors. That says you got to work across the entire faith spectrum. That's the Jewish community. That's the Islam community. That's Catholics. That's Presbyterians. Because at the end, the people suffering span all those groups.
Well, there are a lot of voters that aren't even sure what district they're in. Can you help them and say, and here's where Senate District number 29 is, and if you're in that district, I want your vote?
Yeah, and Senate District 29 is, if J.D. Ford was your senator, that's the district I'm running for. It's made up of Pike and Wayne Township. I go all the way to Raceway Road, butts up against Hendricks County. And, on the east side of that, it's 465 pretty much. In some parts, just a little east of 465. Go all the way down to Raceway Road on the south, a few blocks south of Raceway Road. Also got Zionsville up there in Boone County, coming across the West Carmel in Hamilton County. And over there, I go up to 146th Street. So it's a gerrymandered district. Obviously, years ago when it was drawn, they never anticipated that a Democrat would win, but J.D. Ford was able to win. And so now we have an opportunity to, we want to keep it a Democrat seat, to do that. And we have an opportunity to put a Black male in that spot and serve that base from Boone County, Zionsville, West Carmel, Pike, and Wayne Township.
So you mentioned earlier, the very first thing when I said, was your closing comments for your voters, the last few things you said, get out to vote. And you're going to be part of several that are leading that effort over this coming weekend, Souls to the Polls. Talk about that as well, and how that can be a vehicle to get people out to vote.
Yeah, Souls to the Polls is happening this Sunday. Thanks for bringing up that information. It's 5 different churches. If other churches want to join, all they have to do is contact Kara Johnson there at 317-869-7367. I'm happy to report that Cameron Riddle has a bus company, and he's donating buses for this particular effort. So we're going to be leaving from these respective churches. You don't have to be a member of the church. So like at Purpose of Life, 12 o'clock, if you're at Purpose of Life, at 12 o'clock on Sunday, the bus is going to depart from there and head down to the City County building and vote. The other churches involved include Antioch Fountain of Grace, Eastside Baptist Church, St. John's Missionary Baptist Church, and the Olivet Baptist Church. So those are the churches that are participating in this effort. Why? Because we need to get people out to vote. And that is so crucial, Reverend Alexander, to this election and to even future elections. Because people are going to look at, with all this pain going on, did the people care enough to show up to vote? Because if they don't show up to vote, it signals to them they can continue with these things. People don't care. We'll just do it anyway. If we want to slow down any of these other things that we're uncomfortable about, whether it's data centers, whatever that conversation is, we have to go vote. Because then they will look and say, now, do I want to go out on the limb? Because the municipal elections are next year, and there will be some other state offices that will be happening next year. And in 2 years, many of these other House representative elections are happening. People are going to be paying attention. And this is where we demonstrate that we are awake. We're not nap tank. We're not asleep. We got to wake up. We got to go vote. We got to take somebody with us to vote. We're just trying to make it easy. We know gas prices are up. If you don't want to drive down there, hey, get on the bus. Let's go down there and vote. And we're going to bring you back to your church that you left from and go on about your merry way. But we have to go and vote.
Well,
we're doing this in May, and we'll be back to do this in November.
Well, Mr. President, I think after what the ruling was today from the Supreme Court, we should come out in numbers and say we're going to take this opportunity to let people hear our voice. This is going to be the opportunity where we're going to speak up. So I'm telling all you folks, you've got some elderly seniors and things like that, and it's difficult for you, to travel with them. Bring them to one of the churches. We'll help them get on a bus. They'll be able to fellowship with some other saints and things like that. We'll be able to bring you all back safely, and then we'll also be able to send a message. So once again, that's this coming Sunday at the various churches that are listed there on our website. We're at the top of our hour. I want to say thank you, Mr. President, for all that you're doing and all the labor that you've been doing during this campaign season as well. We thank all of you that are listening and have been watching. You're listening to the Concerned Clergy Radio Show on Praise AM 1310, 95.1 FM Indy's Inspiration Station.
You've been listening